Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Hey, thank you so much for watching the video today. Before I begin, I wanted to remind you all, please go to my website. Go to 16roundsplus.com. Sign up for my live draft tool. Based on the Cuddy system developed by the counselor, it's going to help you crush your draft by giving you a fully customized draft list that you can set up in minutes, broken down round by round based on the size of your league, your draft position, your league scoring settings, and your player preferences. It's a great program. Check it out. It's very reasonable. You can use it in all of your drafts this season. I am using it in mine. I'm absolutely crushing these drafts, and I'm very excited to see what happens this year because I think it's going to be fantastic. So anyway, thank you so much. Let's get back to the video.
Been knocked down 1,000 times, I ain't going nowhere. Yeah, I'm standing right here. Demons all around, but I ain't got no fear.
All right, hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. How y'all doing out there? I'm doing a show solo without the counselor today because I wanted to talk to you guys deep dive about what opportunity exists and what we can expect from second-year players that are tight ends, running backs, and wide receivers. And I think you're going to find this information very valuable. And I think you can also see that the projections that are being given out in other publications across the internet are vastly underestimating the value of these second-year players. These are ascending players. They are getting better, and yet somehow in the projections, it's basically what they did last year, maybe a tiny bit more. But that's not what we see historically with with players that have gone through their second year. So let's get right into it. Now, the counselor did a video on the tight ends, and originally we had done that video together, but I wanted to kind of go over what we were discussing with tight ends, especially second-year tight ends. And I know that most of you already understand that as far as first-year tight ends is very much a bad bet. I looked through all the tight ends that were recruited into the NFL from 2018 through now, and I was only able to find 2 rookie tight ends that actually placed in the top 12 during their rookie season. And that was Kyle Pitts, who, as you know, was the 4th overall selection the year he came into the league. And then it was Pat Freiermuth, who also came into the league that year. So I know there's a lot of very exciting tight ends coming into the league this year, but I'm not really too interested in them because when I look at historically the names that came in starting in 2018, we've got names like Mike Gesicki, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant, Cole Kmet, as well as Kyle Pitts and Pat Freiermuth. These guys all are great tight ends. These are all tight ends that are pretty much going in the top 12 of most drafts right now. And yet in their rookie seasons, almost all these guys were completely irrelevant. I mean, just an irrelevant amount of volume, 2 to 3 targets a game for the most part. Kyle Pitts was like the best. He was like at 6 targets per game, 6.5 or something like that. Pat Freiermuth was at like 5.5, but most everybody else was at such low volume, you couldn't do anything with them. And they were worthless to play with because of that. But when they got to their second year, that's when we saw a substantial increase in the amount of work they were receiving. And this makes sense. It takes a long time for these players to learn their position. They got to be a blocker and they got to be a receiver. It takes some time, and that time is usually the second or the third year. And if we look at the second year for these players, all of a sudden, lo and behold, they become fantasy relevant. Dallas Goedert averaged 5.8 targets per game, became the tight end 10. It was a 110% increase in his volume from the prior year. Mike Gesicki received a 178% increase in his volume in the second year, went to 5.56 targets per game. Mark Andrews went to 6.53 targets per game, 109% increase. TJ Hawkinson saw a 28% increase. Noah Fant, a 50% increase. Cole Kmet, a 96% increase. And Pat Freiermuth saw a 24% increase during his sophomore campaign. The only player who went down on a per game basis was Kyle Pitts, who declined by 9%. So when we're looking at these pool of players, really, they all were really good. And when you get over 5 targets per game as a tight end, you become a valuable option. These guys, Mike Gesicki in his sophomore year was the tight end 12. Dallas Goedert, tight end 10. Mark Andrews, the tight end 5. TJ Hawkinson was the tight end 5 in his sophomore year. These are different years here for these guys. Noah Fant was the tight end 8. Pat Freiermuth remained the tight end 12. He was the tight end 12 2 years in a row. Cole Kmet, even though he saw an increase, he was still only tight end 20. Kyle Pitts fell to tight end 33 because he suffered some injuries as well. He didn't play a full season. But on a per game basis, again, he was still getting a pretty decent amount of volume. So what are my takeaways for tight ends? And the takeaways are, we've already talked about it. The rookie tight ends, just a bad bet. There's just not enough volume that's going to go to most of these rookie tight ends that people are talking about to make them at all fantasy viable. But when we look at sophomore years, 6 sophomore tight ends placed in the top 12 during that same period. So it's a much larger group of players. And the average increase in volume of these second-year tight ends was 84%. That's pretty good, a nearly doubling of their volume. And so let's look forward at who are the sophomore tight ends this year. And we've got 7 names I want to talk about. We've got Trey McBride of Arizona, Jelani Woods of the Colts, Chig Okonkwo of the Tennessee Titans, Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys, Isaiah Likely, Baltimore Ravens, Cade Otton, Tampa Bay Bucks, and Greg Dulcich of Denver. Now, again, most of these guys did not have fantasy-relevant volume. The only one who got over 5 was Greg Dulcich. He averaged 5.5 opportunities a game. He only played in 10 games, though, so that's part of the reason why he didn't make it into the top 12. He just didn't play enough in his rookie year. But of this group, I've got to say, man, I'm in on Dulcich. I'm in. I mean, if this guy can receive, let's just say, a 30% increase in volume, which is certainly realistic, that would take him up to 7 or 8 targets a game. That puts him into elite top 6 tight end territory. That's very exciting. I actually just grabbed him in a super flex best ball that I'm in right now. Got him in the 10th round. That was pretty nice. And I am not at all worried about the news that he's somehow number 2 on the depth chart. Don't even believe it. This stuff is all lies at this time of year. Don't trust what coaches say. Trust what coaches do. Dulcich is going to get the usage. He's going to get the bump. I think it's almost a guarantee. But of the other guys, there are some opportunities here. And so what I really want to look at is, was there an increase or a decrease in receiving competition, right? Are they in a same or better position than they were last season? And when you look at someone like Chig Okonkwo, well, it was very promising what we saw at the end of the last season. But now they've added DeAndre Hopkins. And so now they got Hopkins, and they've got, why am I drawing a blank on his name? I'm drawing a blank on Treylon Burks, right? Treylon Burks, yes. And so he was in a situation where he was almost going to be like the number 2 receiver on this team. Now he's down to number 3. I think that kind of limits his upside, but I think we're certainly going to see an increase in his usage. He only averaged 2.71 opportunities per game. I think that's going to go up, and I think we could see that go up to maybe the 5 to 6 range. And again, that makes you fantasy viable for fantasy football. Someone like Jelani Woods. I'm liking Jelani Woods more and more because of all this drama with Jonathan Taylor. I mean, if Jonathan Taylor sits out, Jonathan Taylor is one of the main receivers on this team. So that means Jelani Woods could potentially be the number 2 receiver on this team. Fantastic opportunity. Only averaged 2.6 targets per game last year. I see a big increase in store for him. Trey McBride, they lost DeAndre Hopkins, so there's less competition for targets, and certainly I think he could be the number 2 or number 3 receiver on this team. Jake Ferguson, not as excited about because they did add Brandon Cooks. There seems to be a lot of receiving competition on this team. Not sure there's going to be much room for him to grow, but then again, Dalton Schultz carved out a pretty nice role when he was there. Isaiah Likely is the tight end 2 behind Mark Andrews. I don't think I want anything to do with him, but Cade Otton is another one who I'm super interested in. There really wasn't any change in As far as the receivers on this team, so it's about the same as it was last year. And Cade Otton averaged over 4 targets per game. So if he can get 5 or 6 targets per game, again, a fantasy viable player who's available very late on the draft board. So this is something to think about. And as far as rookies go, again, I am mostly staying away. I know the counselor is a big proponent of Sam Laporta, and I do see why he could be good, but I don't know if I really want to take the chance. I'll take my chances with these sophomore guys, frankly. Also, Dalton Kincaid. Those are like the only 2 rookies I would even consider as far as tight ends are concerned. But that's what I wanted to talk to you about with tight ends. So let's move on to running backs. Now, what I wanted to look at is if a running back placed in the top 36 running backs in their rookie season, how they do the following season. And so I looked at the group of players, again, going back to 2018, and here's the group of names that I came up with. So we got Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, Najee Harris, and Javonte Williams. I think that goes through, that's through the 2021 season. I didn't include the 2022s in here because there's only 1 year of history for those guys, so we needed 2 years of history. But again, large increases in volume for the most part. Nick Chubb saw a 57% increase in his volume in his sophomore year, went to 21.6 opportunities per game. David Montgomery saw a 21% increase. Miles Sanders, 19% increase. DeAndre Swift, a 34% increase. Jonathan Taylor, 25% increase. Dobbins, 19% increase. Antonio Gibson, 27% increase. Big increases almost across the board. Now, there were 4 that declined, and so I wanted to talk about those guys. So the 2 names I want to talk about most of all are Saquon Barkley and Najee Harris, because both those guys declined in their sophomore year. Saquon Barkley's volume went down by 6%. Najee's went down by 19%, both substantial amounts, substantial declines. But with both these players, their quarterback, who was a legacy quarterback, a Hall of Famer at the end of their career, retired, and then a true rookie came in. Daniel Jones came in Saquon Barkley's second year. And it was, of course, George Pickens came in on Najee Harris's second year. So I think that's a big reason why we saw a decline from those 2 players specifically. But they were still good. They were still, Najee Harris was the RB14 in his sophomore year. Saquon Barkley was the RB10 in his sophomore year. So they were still good, just not as good as where they were being drafted. You lost value on them if you drafted them. The other 2 guys that declined were Devin Singletary and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I think with these 2 guys, I think the main issue is in relation to who their quarterback is. And both these guys, CEH plays with Patrick Mahomes, and Devin Singletary was with Josh Allen. Both these guys do not utilize running backs around the goal line. Josh Allen is the running back around the goal line. So, Devin Singletary doesn't get that kind of usage. CEH, again, Mahomes, I love Mahomes, love him. He doesn't utilize running backs around the goal line. He just throws it. Usually to Travis Kelce, right? So I could see why we would see decline in those 2 players. But again, if you look at the list, everyone else increase, and a pretty nice increase. I basically calculated that the average increase of running backs in year 2 after they've had a top 36 season in their rookie year is about 12%. But if we remove those 4 players I was talking about, if we remove Saquon, Najee, CEH, and Devin Singletary, the average of the remainder of the players is actually about 23%. So yes, that is really nice. That's really good numbers to know, and that's what you can expect. So when we're looking at these 2023 sophomore running backs, the guys that were entered the league last year, now entering the year 2, what does their upside look like? And I've got 3 names I want to talk about. The first one is Kenneth Walker, who averaged 17 and a half opportunities per game and was the RB15. Great player. Again, he was my favorite guy. He was, before the NFL draft, he was my number 1 Hands down. I loved Kenneth Walker so much. But then, of course, they drafted Zach Charbonnet. And so I really think it's going to be very, very difficult for us to see an increase in his usage in year 2. I still think he's going to be a good player. He's an explosive player. The guy is really good at getting into the end zone. Just some of his runs are amazing. So I'm excited to see what he can do, and perhaps he will be even more efficient now that he doesn't have to carry the entire load. We'll see. But anyway, that's my opinion on Kenneth Walker. The next guy is Dameon Pierce. And he averaged 19.9 opportunities per game, ended up as the RB 29 on the season. And, it's not hard to understand why someone like Pierce with more volume was worse than a guy like Kenneth Walker. It's because, the Houston Texans are a terrible, terrible team. My big concern with Pierce, though, is he is playing with a rookie quarterback. And so, C.J. Stroud is coming in. And the problem with rookie quarterbacks is they don't get that many touchdowns. They get a lot of interceptions and turnovers. And because of that, that limits the scoring opportunities. That limits the playing time of the offensive players. And so I think we could see a decline in Dameon Pierce in year 2. Can he still be a top 36 running back? I think he sure can. And I like where he's going on the draft board because you can get him in the 6th round in most drafts. That's a nice spot to get him as your running back 3 or maybe even 4 if you go that heavy on running back. So I think it's going to be a good opportunity for Dameon, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to grow his role in year 2 just because of the situation with the quarterback. The final guy I want to talk about is Isaiah Pacheco, who averaged 10.8 opportunities per game and was the RB 34. Certainly a very explosive player. He seems to be getting a lot of buzz. People want to take him, but I got to say, man, Patrick Mahomes does not utilize the running back around the goal line. He doesn't. He throws the ball. Yeah, that's what he does. And so I'm really not excited about Isaiah Pacheco in year 2. I just don't think there's going to be enough opportunity for him in order to really build on his rookie year. He doesn't have a lot of draft capital, but again, it's just the structure of the team. They don't utilize the running back around the goal line. And so I just don't see a lot of upside there for these 3 guys. So that's my opinion of these 3 guys. Will I still take Kenneth Walker? Will I still take Dameon Pierce? Yes. Isaiah Pacheco's kind of been off my list no matter what. But this is just so you understand the situation. But you also understand the upside. And there are some other names I want to talk about, guys that didn't end up in the top 36 in their rookie year, but definitely could be in line for more work. We got guys like Breece Hall, James Cook, Rachaad White, Brian Robinson. All these guys can see increases in volume in year 2. And so that's good. That's a good thing. And Breece Hall has the injury risk. I'm not touching Breece Hall right now because of that. But if he manages to get himself out on the field before the start of the NFL season, I'll take a chance on him. I'll draft him. But again, James Cook, who's he playing with? Josh Allen. It's probably not going to happen. Rachaad White is a receiving running back playing with a terrible quarterback situation. I'm not sure how much upside is there. Brian Robinson could be effective. He could get a nice increase in his rushing volume, but how good is this Washington offense really going to be? How many scoring opportunities are they going to have with a guy like Sam Howell? I don't know. It's unknown, but at least these sophomore running backs are probably going to see some increase in their volume. The tendency is to give them more volume in their sophomore year. It's not as dramatic as tight ends, but it is still something, and it's something to consider. And it also, like I said, those projections you're looking at, when you're on a draft board and you're looking at the projected points for those players, you're trying to decide who you want to take, understand that those numbers are garbage. And especially for these young players, there will be increases in volume for these second-year players that will be substantial. Like I said, running backs, the ones that increased were up like 25% more than what they did in their rookie year. The tight ends, 83% higher than their rookie year. So these are substantial increases. So the one I really want to talk to you about, though, and this is the wide receivers, because you've got to know this about the wide receivers, because I've got to say I am super in on this. This is very exciting to see. Now, again, sophomore wide receivers that place in the top 36 in their rookie season, there's a lot. There's a lot of them. Look at this list. DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, Chase Claypool, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Holy crap, that is quite a list of superstars. We all know these players. And well, guess what was the case with almost every one of these players? They all increased their usage in their sophomore season. Substantial increases. DJ Moore, 58% more opportunities. A.J. Brown, 39% more opportunities. DK Metcalf, 26%. Deontay Johnson, 63% increase in usage. Terry McLaurin, 36%. Justin Jefferson, 29%. Jamar Chase, 46%. Holy crap. This is very exciting when we look at this whole list. And the other thing I want you to notice when you're looking at this list is there's only 2 players that actually saw a decline in volume if they placed in the top 36 in their rookie season. Who are the 2? Brandon Ayuk and Jalen Waddle. Okay, so let's look at the situations. Brandon Ayuk was for some reason in Dutch with his coach. With Coach Shanahan, man. I don't know, got in the doghouse. It was like from the very beginning of training camp, that dude was, he was pushed off to the side. Like, we're going to get rid of this guy. That's how bad it was. I'm sure you guys maybe remember that. And because of that, that was a pretty bad situation for him. His volume went down by 38% in a sophomore year. I believe that it rebounded pretty strongly towards the end of the year because I guess they worked out their issues and Ayuk started doing what Shanahan wanted him to do, and now they're a happy family again. But at the time, man, it was a substantial amount of chatter about bad vibes, okay? The other guy, Jalen Waddle. Well, what happened to Jalen Waddle in the sophomore year? Well, I'll tell you what happened, man. Tyreek Hill joined the team. An elite wide receiver 1 joined the team. It's no wonder that Jalen Waddle's volume declined by 20% in his sophomore year. But even so, he still received over 7 targets per game, and he was the wide receiver 7. So that speaks to me of incredible efficiency in Jalen Waddle for his sophomore campaign. But the big thing I want to take away from you is that the average increase of these wide receivers going into year 2 was 23%. And if we eliminate the 2 that declined, the average increase is 30%. 30% more targets than their rookie season. So let's look at the wide receivers that are heading into their sophomore season. I got 4 names I want to talk to you about. These are the 4 guys that placed in the top 36 in their rookie season. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Christian Watson, George Pickens. These guys are the guys right now that I think are set for a massive increase in volume. This is part of the reason why I've been going nuts over Garrett Wilson. The dude averaged 8.8 targets a game in his rookie season. Now, let's say it goes up by 20 to 30%. He's over 10 targets per game. There's not that many receivers that do that. It's Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. And maybe you could say Cooper Kupp and Tyreek Hill can get there too. Yes. But so we're talking Garrett Wilson is a top 5 wide receiver. It's why I've been grabbing him in tons of drafts in the second round because he's such an incredible bargain. But super excited about his upside. Likewise, Chris Olave, right now just below 8 targets per game on average, 7.93. A 30% increase would take him up to that 10 level. I mean, again, massive amounts of upside here. And that's why these 2 guys I'm most excited about as far as those second round receivers. These are the 2 guys you really want to get. But even later on, Christian Watson at 5.21 targets per game. George Pickens at 5.1 targets per game. Both these guys can build substantially on these numbers. A 30% increase would get Christian Watson up to 7 targets per game. Maybe George Pickens close to 7 in the 6.5 to 7 range. That would be amazing. And we've seen wide receivers get more than that. Like I said, there's plenty on this list that got more than a 30% increase in their sophomore year. DJ Moore, A.J. Brown, Deontay Johnson, who else? Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra, both got over 30% increases in their usage. But again, those projections you are seeing on ESPN, those projections you're seeing on Yahoo, those projections you're seeing on Underdog or any of those other sites, man, again, it's garbage. Don't use it to determine who you're going to take. These are the guys you want to take. I got to say, they're going to be impressive, and they're going to absolutely help you crush your fantasy teams. Now, there's some other names, other guys that played in their rookie year, did not place in the top 36, but I think also can be in line for a large increase in volume. We got guys like Drake London, Romeo Dobbs, I can't say, I don't know if it's Jahan or Jahan Dotson, Sky Moore. These are guys that can see substantial increases in their volume. I'm not as excited about these players. I think of the four, Drake London is really the only one I'm super interested in. But again, the potential is there. The history is there. We've seen it. And there's a very, very low bust rate among second-year wide receivers. So it's a low-risk play. So get those second-year receivers, load up on them because they're being undervalued. They are going to see substantial increases in their usage in year two, and you are going to utilize that to help win your league. So I hope this was all helpful for you. I was very excited going through all this information, and I love just doing these little deep dives into the data. Didn't look at quarterbacks. This is just these skill players, but even quarterbacks do see increases in volume in their sophomore year. Why do they see increases in volume? Because they get better. They don't turn the ball over as much. They don't get as many interceptions in year two, so they're able to sustain drives longer, more pass attempts. It's very simple math. So, again, these second-year players can really help boost your team and do better than their draft position, giving you value. And that's what you want. So tell me what you think. What do you think about this? Do I make sense here? Am I speaking out of my butt and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about? Are there any second-year players that you guys are really interested in? Again, I just focused on the ones that placed in the top 36 in their rookie season, but we got a whole bunch more in the top 250. What are their prospects? Do you think it's as good? I think I got to do a deep dive on that as well to see what guys were outside the top 36 but made it into the top 36 in year two. That's another group I need to look at. But for right now, man, these are the guys you should target. They're going to see increases in volume. It might not be substantial for some of them, but they're all probably going to see increases. So I'm excited to see what these guys can do in year two. It's a very exciting year for fantasy football. I'm looking forward to these games starting in September. But thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for sticking through the whole thing. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it informative, and I will talk to you soon. Have a good one, everybody.